James Densley is the Deputy Director at the Violence Prevention Project and a criminology professor at Metropolitan State University in Minnesota. James, very glad to have you on the program. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Let's be blunt. There are assertions, particularly online, that some transgender people are more likely to be involved in mass shootings. You track this. Is there any truth to that?
No, is the short answer. Even when you get a couple of cases, particularly in a short time span, it can create a perception of a pattern when there actually isn't one. Statistically, we call this a base rate problem. But if you look at the data, we have a database of mass shooters in the United States. There are 201 individuals in that database. 196 of them are male, 4 are female, and 1 person is transgender. So that shows you that if you think about 1% of the population identifying as being transgender, that they're actually underrepresented in the database, not overrepresented. So the facts just don't bear out.
But let's talk about this, because if you and I were to go online right now, there are claims coming largely from the United States, but also from some politicians in Canada, that the identity of this purported shooter was part of the calculus here. What do you think the motivation is of those people who are posting that?
In some ways, it seems politically convenient because it's a way of demonizing a certain group of people so that we don't have to have the bigger conversations about firearms or about public policy that may have also been part of this picture. So what you often find is we focus on the remarkable aspects of a crime simply because they are remarkable. But when a man perpetrates a mass shooting, we don't talk about gender then because it's just normal. So it's a way of diverting the conversation away from some of the other underlying factors here. And there's been an attack on transgender people, particularly from the right, here where I live in the United States, about their access to bathrooms and to sports and to other things as well. And so I think this fits within this broader narrative of focusing on that group of individuals as deviant and as somehow outside of mainstream society.
Who is, when you look at the data, and I know you look specifically at mass shootings where more than four or more people are killed in the United States, who is responsible for most of those mass shootings?
Well, as I mentioned, if you're talking about gender, it is men. It's 97.5% male. And then there are also some other risk factors there, though, which are really important, which is to say that mass shooters tend to have a grievance, and they tend to be in an existential crisis. The people who perpetrate mass shootings are not necessarily mentally ill, but they're certainly not mentally well. And they are often suicidal and looking to sort of air a grievance with the world, which is why they perpetrate a crime like this. And so thinking about giving people a purpose and a reason to live is a really important step in thinking about prevention and getting upstream of these crimes. But again, when it comes to gender, the overwhelming majority are men.
James, this doesn't happen on the regular in Canada. And so there are reverberations across this country. People are trying to understand it, trying to explain what's happened, trying to make their anger and sorrow make some kind of sense. You've looked at this from an academic perspective. What are the things we need to be mindful of right now?
We often see a common pathway for individuals that perpetrate this type of crime. And one of the things that I'm very curious about is whether or not this particular shooter was at all radicalized online, or at least was part of what is known as the true crime community, which is a place where previous mass shooters have been heroized and celebrated and worshipped. And there's this sort of copycat phenomena with this crime that I think we do need to be mindful of, and thinking about how do we protect our young people on the internet from those exposures that could be potentially harmful. So that's one area that I would be very interested looking at. And then, of course, there is the question around access to firearms. How did this person get access to firearms, particularly if they had a history of mental health challenges where there had been police involvement previously? So those are some of the areas, I think, over the next few days as we learn more about this case, that I feel like could be important for prevention upstream.
And James, I'll be clear, the investigation by the RCMP ongoing. We do not yet have any idea what motivated this, whether there is a radicalization as you've described. Certainly, that I would think that would be something investigators would be looking at if there is any evidence of that, which we don't know at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. James Densley.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
James and I were speaking a lot about the misinformation spreading about transgender people in the wake of this shooting. We have an article about it on the CBC News website. A lot of people reading it right now. You can also check it out on the CBC News app.